can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
5, 4, 3.
Watching my life passing right in front of my eyes. Hello, the story.
Hello.
Or is it
Welcome to Open Wide for Some Soccer. Yo soy Seth Vertelny. Alongside me, Thomas Floyd. Pablo Maurer. Guys, what's up?
How's it going? I love when you speak Spanish. You know how much I love that.
Yeah, that was for you. Is it
Gracias.
Pablo Maurer?
Pablo Maurer. Yeah.
Okay.
Pedro, Paul, whatever you'd like.
Sorry, I'm just
Yeah.
I'm recalling the days when we were regular contributors to the Univision broadcast.
You know, at my other job, I called a customer last week, and he was a South African guy, and I said, yeah, this is Pablo from so-and-so. I have an estimate for you. And he goes, oh, hey, Paul. And I was like, I just rolled with it because it's not worth correcting him. And then the next time I called him, I was like, hey, it's Pablo again from, so-and-so. And he goes, hey, Bob. I was like, you know what? It's fine. Just whatever you want.
Bob.
Just buy the work. That's all I care about.
And then you found out he has Alzheimer's.
Yeah. What? That took a really dark turn for no reason.
See, I was going to suggest more that perhaps being from South Africa, he is a bit of a racist.
Whoa. All of this
I
is
have
just-
heard that all people from South Africa
Well,
are
you
racist.
know, they had apartheid pretty recently. I don't know. I mean, Bob, when you said your name was Pablo, that just seems like...
Just move on. Just move on.
Segregation against the
Just
aliens
stop
in
it.
District 9 was
Stop.
just
Okay,
inhumane.
all right.
I didn't mean to offend our South African listeners.
Anyways, what do we got tonight? We got Matt Doyle. You probably know him best as the MLS analyst on Twitter. He's going to be joining us shortly. Looking forward to that. You know, when I asked him to come on, one of the first things he asked me was whether we were going to get him fired or not. So we'll have to
Is that the challenge?
maybe save the South Africa talk for Matt's appearance, is what I'm saying.
we'll do our best. Yeah, I guess the first thing I can ask him is his thoughts on apartheid and whether he thinks all South Africans are racist.
Anyways, DC United, 2-0 victors over the on that night lowly New York Red Bulls, I guess, last Friday.
They are still kind of the lowly New York Red Bulls. They're toward the bottom of the league standings, which means they would only barely make the Eastern Conference playoffs if they started today.
Yeah, I mean,
Have you guys seen the Supporter Shield standings, by the way? It's basically the Western
It's the Western Conference
Conference.
standings.
Yeah.
Sporting Kansas City would be first in the East and would miss the playoffs in the West. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Sporting, yeah. So I guess the question we were asking about this United game, which we will briefly touch on, but you know, I think that United played fairly well, especially in the first half. But was this just a case of the Red Bulls, as they have been for much of the beginning of the season, or do we want to give United some credit for having a good performance?
I think we can give United some credit. Their attack over the last few weeks has been erratic. There'll be good games and bad games, but at least there are good games now. There have been several different performances where this unit really has come together in a convincing way. The Acosta-Saborio duo continues to have success. We had Sabo, kind of quietly, it felt like, with a goal and an assist in this most recent game. Costa continues to create. And then on the flanks, Nyarko and Nagel have both been very effective, particularly Nyarko.
Yeah, I think and Nagel with what would have been probably the pass of the week had RJ Allen not just dropped the ultimate dime
And then the
NYCFC Portland game.
And the week before, Nagel should have had 2 assists. Sabo butchered a couple chances.
I mean, I
and
guess
that lost to.
I guess Allen set himself up nicely by dribbling upfield with his hand before
Yes.
hitting that pass. But Nagel's cross was exceptional, and Nyarko with a karate-esque finish on that.
Yeah,
so.
he made that one look a lot easier than it was, because to fly through the air, volley it with the outside of your foot like that, get it on target.
I think I wrote after the game, I just genuinely think that Nyarko is DC's best player this year. And I don't
think there's any question.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
Birnbaum.
Best
that's
attacking
not a-
player, yeah.
maybe Andre Mancini. I'm not sure. Other players in the running.
Maybe Saim Siralam.
God.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that name, Andrea Mancini, since he signed, and it just reminded me how ridiculous that signing was, thank you.
I forget why. I was scrolling through United's roster, which is something I rarely do because I generally know everyone on the team, and I just saw Mancini's name and was just like, oh, right, that happened.
I tend to avoid scrolling through that roster because I don't want to fall asleep. Hey-o.
I don't think we discussed it
Sick
on the
burn.
podcast, but
Thank you.
my comparison for the Mancini signing was it reminded me of the Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns gets a job for his deadbeat son at the power plant,
Played by Rodney Dangerfield.
played by Rodney Dangerfield.
It's embarrassing.
Roberto Mancini just goes to Toei, can you give me a solid? Just give my son something to do. Put him on one of your other teams. I don't care.
I don't know. I feel like they'll get one of these players every year. Maybe next year it's Jason Levian's turn and he'll just get his son to play for some reason.
Yeah, on the bright side, the Mancini signing did show that Eric Tohier is still involved with DC United. So
That is true.
In any case, yeah, I don't know. I think you certainly have to give DC credit, but as Dax McCarty said after that Red Bulls game, he said it was the most embarrassing performance he's ever been a part of, which
really
says a lot. Yeah,
I saw that he said it was embarrassing. Most embarrassing performance he's ever been a part of.
On the Red Bulls.
on the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
Excludes 2011 DC United, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say he did play for DC United for a little bit. No,
Right.
that's
DC United captain. I feel like people
Yeah,
forget
right
that.
off the bat.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Wow. That's
The first of many players that Ben Olsen's played out of position. Dax McCarty.
That's a big statement. I feel like, in a way, McCarty, as that team's captain, would say something like that to sort of wake his team up, get them out of this early season funk, maybe get them to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on, because I find it hard to believe that, mid-May 2-0 loss to DC United would qualify as the most
That was
embarrassing.
why I laughed. Was just you realize this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter at all, right? I mean,
You realize you win one more game and you'll be in first place in the East.
yeah.
I'm going through their results map. They had a 3-0 loss at Montreal that I actually feel like was probably more embarrassing than this.
Yeah.
They just looked terrible. Gideon Ba and Kamar Lawrence just gave up playing soccer in that game, and
Oh, right. Yeah, Gideon Ba, I remember, had two really egregious plays to result in 2 Montreal goals.
And Montreal scored in the 91st minute to make it 3-0 on a play where Kamar Lawrence looked like he just thought the game had ended and
Yeah.
stopped trying.
Speaking of Kamar Lawrence, can we talk about Kamar Lawrence and Chris Duval
Yeah,
and whether they should even be playing soccer and
they
Major League
didn't-
Soccer?
They did not have great games. Chris Duval, I'll give him a pass. He's being played out of position due to necessity, and
Well, so is Lawrence, right? He's not a center back. He's an
Lawrence
he's a
was at left back in this game. He had been used at center back in previous games, but this one it was Duval and Cullen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So Duval, I mean, he's had some rough games, but this one I'll give him a pass. Lawrence has just been poor for them week in, week out all season. It makes me really worry about. Well, I don't know if worry is the right word. Be concerned for Jamaica at the Copa America.
Definitely cracked me up because you have first half substitutions, which as a whole are embarrassing and humiliate a new player. And then you have first half substitution in the 43rd minute.
Yeah.
Which is Marsh couldn't even wait 2 minutes and just pull him at halftime.
It actually was the 44th minute. To further
God, even
emphasize.
worse. Even
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah. You would have loved Tom Sohn. Tom Sohn was a big fan when he was at DC United of the 41st minute sub. But even that is all right, I'll put in the sub, tell him to sprint for 5 minutes, maybe he'll make something happen, and then we go into the locker room. The 44th minute sub is incredible.
That's
Classic Thomas Floyd sentence starts with, "You'd have loved Tom Sohn." Just
Thomas Floyd.
been a while since I heard that. Moving on, Steve Birnbaum, U.S. national team, obviously center back, DC United center back. Now hearing is drawing interest from Dortmund.
A wide variety of teams credited with an interest in Steve Birnbaum.
And any number of players.
Anything from Borussia Dortmund, as we saw today. I can't recall the actual source of that report. But anything from Borussia Dortmund to I saw some teams in the Israeli league linked to him. That is
The Israeli
quite the
league
range.
feels like a stretch. I mean,
In what way? I mean,
I feel like if Birnbaum wants to make the jump to Europe, he's going to find a higher level of competition than a league in which Aaron Schoenfeld can tear up the scoring charts.
That is your signal, Dan Carell, to call in.
what's the minimum DC should accept for Steven Birnbaum, bearing in mind that they have nobody incredibly competent to replace him?
Well, I'm going to mention the MLS rules here. Your allocation money you yield from these deals is capped at like $650,000, something
Okay.
like that. So if basically the idea is if you sell a player for more than that, the organization pockets the money and you can spend it on training facilities or just put it in Eric Toier's wallet, or you can use it to spend on like
Put it
another,
right in
on
Pepco's
another
bank
DP
account.
down the road.
Any
Yeah.
number of maybe hire an exterminator
Right.
for the press box.
Does
you
Eric
know.
Tohier have a son that DC United might want to sign?
I talked to Chris Pontius today, by the way. I had to sit down with him in Philly, and I asked him what the weirdest thing he'd ever seen at RFK was, and his answer was not surprising, but just like he looked at me really seriously and just said, "The raccoon." And I said, "What?" Like,
Wait, you saw the raccoon?
I said, "Oh, I always thought that was just sort of like he was like, no, dude, I mean like 2, 3, 4 times the raccoon." And then he goes, "And also that hawk, man." The hawk just like circling and like eating mice like off the playing field. And
Do you
stuff.
remember when there was a fish that was in the stands?
Yeah, there were dead fish in the stands
yeah.
because like migratory birds would get fish out of the Potomac and then drop them accidentally.
I was going to say, I think that might be a product of the hawk.
Yeah. Also
Do
asked me,
hawks
he said,
fish?
"Is it
I don't know. I'm not much
Chris?"
of a birder.
And I have no confirmation on this, but Pontius goes, "Is it true that like 2 years ago in the home opener, some fan got bit by a rat?" He said that. So
man.
unconfirmed, but we might have, I think there might be a rodent problem at RFK.
that actually is confirmed.
So
But yeah, just on the Birnbaum, like, do you sell him for $650,000 of allocation money? Is that a deal you would make as a DC United general manager?
I don't know. I mean, put yourself in Dave Casper's shoes for a second, Seth. What would you do?
Well, it does seem like Birnbaum's value at this point is pretty high. I could see the argument that he has room to grow. However, he's 25. He's in his third year in MLS. Not sure how much better he's going to get. Now, having said that, he's pretty good. He's a top-level MLS center back who could probably help a few teams in Europe. But I think if I were Casper and United got a good offer for him, it would be pretty tempting, especially when you consider that United hasn't really invested a whole lot of money in him. I mean, this would be all profit. I mean, they drafted him, so they didn't have to pay any money to sign him. They're not sure exactly what his contract is right now, but I think it's fairly reasonable, especially when you consider his performance over the last 2+ years.
Yeah.
So I think
And that's another factor. If he stays around, that you are signing him to a new deal, and he's taking up a bigger cap hit. So his situation, as great as a player as he is, it becomes slightly less enviable. You now have a top-level center back for top-level player money. But if you sell him now, maybe you get the best of it.
right, and I think depending on what happens with the national team over the next couple months, you could really have a player whose value is at an all-time high. Maybe he starts a couple games in the Copa America and plays well. Now all of a sudden, his transfer fee might jump up quite a bit.
Yeah, sell high and use that cash to just stock up some sweet allocation money.
Yeah, I would be certainly concerned about DC United center back depth if that were to happen. Presumably, they would bring in a replacement with that money, but
Yeah.
who is their fourth string Center back at the moment, I mean, you got Opare and Birnbaum and Boswell. Who's number 4?
Jalen Robinson. I mean, it's probably Marcus Halsty, but who knows?
I mean, I think Ben is legally banned from playing academy players, so I don't think he can do that.
Right. There you have it.
Joining us on the line now is Matt Doyle, the MLS analyst. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. How about you?
Good. So, I told Seth that you'd asked me if we were going to get you fired, so let's jump right in on the GOP side. No, we'll spare you that. So pretty busy weekend in MLS this past weekend. We were just talking about DC, but let's move to some more broad-reaching stuff. We have Matt on the phone.
Yeah, I guess we were gonna start off with the tied for first place New York City FC. Do they have a nickname? No,
The Pigeons.
The Pigeons. It's pretty good.
I do like that one.
The Pigeons. Yeah.
Make sure you tell Mike Francesca about that one.
I know.
God.
I was making a reference that very few people probably get, but yeah.
all right. Yeah.
My favorite moment of that Francesca thing was just him repeatedly calling Red Bull Arena a quote
I
cute.
have to tell you, I'm enjoying you guys mispronouncing his name.
Oh, is it? What is it?
Francesa.
Francesa? Really?
Yeah.
Why do I not feel bad that I mispronounced his name?
We're from DC.
I liked him calling Red Bull Arena a quote cute little stadium 4 or 5 times. I don't know.
But Matt, 3 wins in a row for NYCFC. It's obviously a weak conference, and they're able to be tied for first, barely being above 500. But I mean, how much do you think this is them really starting to show what they're made of, and could they really be a contender?
Come on. Come on. I mean, they're a better team than they were at the start of the season, but do you really want to add, can they really be a contender?
I mean, I guess anybody.
They got shot 97-3. They gave up 2 home goals. They're 1-4 at home. And they gave up a pair of home goals to a Vancouver team that couldn't find the goal with a map a couple of weeks ago. So, no, I don't think they're going to be a contender, but they're definitely better than they were. And they've kind of discovered an identity, which makes it fun. And I think that Patrick Vieira deserves a lot of credit for that. But, come on, they're not contenders, guys. Look at that back line.
Even when they get Frank Lampard back, Matt? Are you sure about this?
I thought he retired.
Yeah, no. I did enjoy the way he got off the bus in Portland and immediately signed a Chelsea jersey. It's just too perfect.
That's pretty great.
So, Matt, what do you think is going on with Mix Diskerud at NYCFC? I feel like this is a question we have every year with Mix, whether it's a club level, national team. There seems to be a lot of varying opinions on where he should be in the picture right now. He started this most recent match, but he's been sitting on the bench behind guys like Bravo and Mikey Lopez. Do you think NYCFC is getting have been getting the most out of him earlier this year because he was playing pretty well those first few games? And what do you think happened that saw him slip down the depth chart?
Well, I mean, the first couple of games, the first game was at Chicago, who were just a disaster. So I think you can kind of throw that data point, mostly just throw that out. As for Mix, I mean, let me turn around and put it this way: what's his best position?
I personally would like to see him play a more deep-lying central midfield role if he has 2 ball winners in front of him, but I don't know if he's ever going to really get that chance with the personnel NYCFC has.
So the same position Pirlo kind of played for AC Milan in Italy and then Juventus for a while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's one of the... I'm not sure I agree with that, but I think there is perhaps the biggest issue. You're not going to sit Pirlo in order to put Mix Diskerud into that spot. And then we have, a year or so, not quite a year, of data points saying that Pirlo and Mix can't really play in the same midfield because of all the all the defensive issues that you inevitably encounter with that pairing, which is, then okay, so if that, then okay, Mikey Lopez and Federico Bravo become not just guys on the roster, but necessities.
I mean, here's a question. Vieira in recent weeks has said, he sort of deflected very gracefully the mixed question by saying things like, no, he's not starting because he's a very particular kind of player for a particular situation. What situation is that? When does this team need Mixed Diskerud?
That is the thing. I don't think this team needs Mixed Diskerud, and I think that if they could trade him, they would, but nobody's going to take him at that salary point. I think that if you have a high usage number 8 behind him, and just a monster of a number 9 in front of him, and at least one goal-scoring winger, then you could probably play him as a number 10. And we've seen stuff like that with the national team against Mexico in 2013, I want to say, when he had Bradley behind him, and Dempsey was banging in goals then, and Landon was on the wing. That all worked out pretty well because he could just be a guy who pops up in spots and, hits a nice little pass, but isn't asked to control the game or win the game. But that is such a distinct and unusual situation. Most teams want their number 10 to be that guy. And Mixed Diskerud's not that guy. And that limits the options for where and how you can play him.
Well, I think if we've learned anything from the last week or two in MLS, it's that if Mix really wants a change of scenery, all he needs to do is start publicly bashing his teammates.
Get into a dispute over a penalty kick with David Villa.
It won't be long until he has himself a new team.
Yeah, the difference is that there were people who were actually willing to trade for Kai Kamara. I think Mix has some skills, but again, at that price point, nobody's gonna make that move.
Yeah, I did want to move on to Kamara a little bit. It was such a fast situation. It all seemed to just happen in the blink of an eye. 1 minute the game happened, the next minute he got suspended, the next minute he said he didn't agree with the suspension, and then the next day he was gone. So it's enough to make your head spin a little bit, especially if you're a fan of Columbus. I wanted to get your take, Matt. I mean, Columbus clearly had a locker room issue, but what I'm curious about is whether they pulled the trigger a little too fast, and maybe they would have been better off trying to see if they could mend fences. I mean, they had Higuain and Kamara on the team last year, and they didn't exactly combine all the time, but it worked out. They made it to MLS Cup final.
Yeah, I mean, here's my question is, why don't you at least say give it till the summer transfer window? See if those differences can be moved past, and then I guess move him if, at that point, if it's irreconcilable. Yeah,
I mean, I think that there are a couple of things here. First is that in the way the original question was phrased, it was, did the Crew it was past tense, did they have a locker room issue? And I would say that is probably still present tense. They still, things are still probably not quite right in that locker room because Tony Tchani's still there, and a number of other guys were, tweeting out, "We love you, we love you, Kai. We'll miss you, Kai." Stuff like that, and lines had very clearly been drawn. Greg Berhalter is going to have to do some work to try to make sure that that the team sort of comes together again. And I'm not sure that this group has it from everything that I've heard. And as for, so that's both the looming issue and the explanation for why they felt they had to cut bait with Kamara when they did. The thing that surprised me most about it is that they didn't try to get Juan Agudelo back, because he's not exactly a Berhalter specialty, but he does fit the profile of guys who have made it in the league. Guys who kick around for 5-6 years, have all the talent in the world, and then something happens, whether it's on the field or personal, or they just get in the right situation and grow up, and they start living up to their potential. And I would have, if I were the Crew, I would have demanded Juan Agudelo in exchange for Kai Kamara, because he gives you a lot of what Kai gives you in terms of the physical presence and the link-up play, and he's starting to give you the goals as well.
On that note, do you think this can work for the Revolution with their current roster, or do you think that they will need to move at least one player, whether it's Juan Agudelo or someone else? In this most recent game, they played Agudelo out wide and moved Kellen Rowe to right back, which I'm sure you have feelings about. What do you think of what we've seen out of the Revolution in this one game sample size with Kamara, and can they make things work with this current personnel?
Well, I mean, it looked good, but again, it was against the Fire, so it's you can't take too much out of that.
Jesus, is that they're just like a null data point for the rest of the year or something like that? Or
Pablo, they have 11 shots on goal in the last 2 months. 11 shots on goal in 2 months. They defend completely in their own 18, so of course Kai Kamara is going to look menacing and dominant, and
but they're getting a comeback or something. Forget it. It's impossible.
There's no way to argue out of that one. I think that they stick with what they have for now, and then somebody becomes expendable when the transfer window opens, whether it's Agudelo or Bunbury or Rowe, probably not Fagundes, because I do think they need to fix the central defense. I like Andrew Farrell a lot. He's had some good moments, but he's so weak in the air. And then, at right back, I love Kellen Rowe, but you can't play him at right back full time. You're not going to shut anything down that side. So I think they need to turn one of the assets they have into something tangible and productive in the center of the defense.
We're going to talk about the Red Bulls here in a second, but just to sort of jump back to something quickly, and it's something we were talking about before the show, the three of us. Obviously, this week is quote-unquote rivalry week. League is pushing a lot of these matchups, and
you forgot the branding.
I'm sorry, this week is Heineken Rivalry Week, brought to you by Heineken.
I've heard that Pablo sometimes forgets to put that into his MLS soccer stories.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you have editors.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on. So this DC Philly matchup. I talked to Bill Hamid yesterday actually, and asked him if he thought it was a rivalry, and he flat out said no. He said, the Red Bulls DC is a rivalry. That there's really no sort of history of note between Philly and DC. Other players kind of told me the same thing. What's your view on this matchup?
I think it'll eventually work its way into a rivalry. It probably only takes one or two good playoff rounds to make it happen.
The Audi road to the MLS Cup playoff rounds.
Thank you. And who even sponsors the Open Cup?
Exactly. I don't know.
So a couple of maybe a couple more ugly Open Cup games. And look, I was there in '96. I understand the roots of the DC Metro rivalry, and that will never completely go away. But proximity makes for bad neighbors, and bad neighbors make for great rivalries, in my mind. And I think that over the next decade, I suspect that Philly DC will become the preeminent rivalry for both teams.
Do you think outside of Alexi this week had said something like he thinks the Red Bulls New York City matchup is the league's premier derby, however you want to say it. I'm inclined to agree. Do you think right now that's sort of the top dog rivalry wise, or is it still? Do you think Cascadia? What's your take on that?
I think it's still Cascadia, right? The Timbers won last year's MLS Cup, and the Sounders won the Open Cup and Supporter Shield double the year before. Like there's some actual winning going on there, and that that kind of elevates it to me. I get where Alexi's coming from, though, because if you watched those New York games last year, do they officially call it the Hudson River Derby, by the way?
I don't. I'm not sure. I mean, it would be the Heineken Hudson River Derby,
I
but
was gonna say, is there a sponsor for that?
yeah. I mean, I think it's certainly been come to know that I was at all three of those games last year too, and I've now granted I've never been to CenturyLink or to Providence Park for one of those rivalry matches, but I was. I mean, the atmosphere was electric. It was crazy. You'd have thought those teams had been playing each other for decades.
Yeah, and it came through on the through the TV. And I'll tell you, there's some real bitterness and resentment in the Red Bulls fandom towards the NYCFC fans, and you saw it in the tifo. I mean, the city retirement home was
brilliant,
hilarious.
That was brilliant.
But the 20 years in a stadium late was like, that was visceral and deep and meaningful, and I think that there's a level of resentment and hatred and just being pissed off because where were you in 96? Where were you in 2006? Why did we have to lay the groundwork and get the league up to meet with your approval before you would deign to grace us with your presence?
Yeah, I think
calm down, Matt.
I think
Red Bulls fan shining through here.
I think that's what really makes the rivalry. It's not about the teams on the field. It's just about the fan base, and that's why some of those Cascadia rivalries, specifically Seattle and Portland, are so strong, because Seattle and Portland are two cities that really have a rivalry beyond soccer. And that's why DC and Philly
best artisanal cupcakery,
right.
Best whatever.
And that's why DC and Philly is not a rivalry, because there's not a rivalry between DC and Philly, and DC and New York is still. I mean, New York is still DC United's biggest rivalry, because there actually is a rivalry between those two cities.
So the fact that a lot of the Sons of Ben guys and gals used to be Screaming Eagles and Barra Brava.
Yeah, and I mean you have those two groups being brought together by the loss of members, for example, on both sides in recent years, and that was what I talked to a couple of fans who said it'll never be a rivalry because there's no bad blood. I mean, they tailgate together,
Yeah.
So
give it time.
Yeah. So what's going on with the Red Bulls? What exactly is going on with the Red Bulls? Did you think that last performance, by the way, was as embarrassing as Dax McCarty thought it was?
No, I didn't. I mean, it was sluggish, and they're still sort of disjointed. And I thought Jesse Marsch was right to offer a mea culpa afterwards. But it wasn't even their most embarrassing performance this season. So but I understand that the stakes are greater because, for better or for worse, or for however long it's going to last, the players and the fans definitely still see it as a rivalry game. And when you lay an egg like that, you want the captain to come out and say, you know what, this is on us. This is our bad. We won't embarrass you like that again. But they have the pieces, but it's going to take a little more doing to get them all to fit right. O'Reilly Cullen, it turns out, was not a one-man solution for their defensive woes.
So, bigger picture with the Red Bulls, what do you think it is about that high press system that was so successful last year that isn't clicking this season? Is it just a matter of not having guys like Perenelle and Miazga to hold things down in the back? Or are there guys you see who are underperforming compared to the level they played last year? What are the biggest differences just in terms of the tactical outlook of the Red Bulls?
Well, I think I'll focus more on personnel than tactical, because not much has changed tactically. But personnel-wise, look, Matt Miazga is a Premiership quality central defender. I thought he was the second best central defender in the league last year, and he made plays stepping into the midfield and reading passing lanes that nobody else in the league made. He's really good, and that's very difficult to replace. And then Damien Perenelle, not as spectacular or flashy as Miazga could be, but he was just as good last year, especially in his distribution. And he was a perfect complement in that he understood where Miazga was going and where he needed to be to cover for him. And that's gone. And if that's gone, then it has a cascading effect moving all the way up to the forward line. That's one. The other thing is not so much that guys are underperforming, though I guess you could say Bradley Wright Phillips' finishing has been below the standard that we've come to expect from him. But Lloyd Sam and Mike Grella absolutely overperformed last year. I didn't think anybody had a right to expect Mike Grella would go for 9-7 again in 2016, and Lloyd Sam wasn't going to go for 10-8, whatever numbers he had last year, and so those things all in concert, as well as Kemar Lawrence having fallen off a cliff, that's a pretty pungent stew, and it leads to a lot of bad Friday nights.
Incidentally, I find Matt Miazga's decision to commit career suicide at such a young age to be quite puzzling.
Just so you know, when you called Matt Miazga a premiership caliber center back, the three of us literally looked at each other and all made the hand motion at the same time. Maybe we don't rate him quite as highly as that. I don't know. In any case,
I think. I mean, look, he's going to Chelsea was a jump, and maybe a bridge too far, to be honest with you. But I think he's a guy who. Hopefully he gets loaned out, kind of like Yedlin did, and if he does that, he will be. I think he has as much, if not more, potential than any central defender that we've had, at least since Eddie Pope and maybe ever. And that includes John Brooks, who is a starter in the Bundesliga. And if you can start in the Bundesliga, you can start in the Premiership. So.
It's definitely going to take the right situation next season, and that
Absolutely.
situation is definitely not going to be at Chelsea. But he's still young, so we'll see what happens. Moving on in MLS, we have to touch on Colorado, right?
We do.
Yeah. How is this working? And how do they continue to bench some of their best young players, specifically the Dillons, Powers and Serna, and the last couple years they were doing that and losing every game, so you could have some kind of righteous indignation as a Rapids supporter or even a Rapids observer. This year they're doing it and it's actually working, and partially, or you have to give a lot of the credit to new playmaker Jermaine Jones.
Well, let me tell you guys a little story about a team. We're going to call them the 2015 DC United team.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
That very shrewdly came out early in the season and played some ultra defensive soccer and got their line straight in the back. Had maybe a little bit more talent on that line than most people gave them credit for, and a solid central midfield of two industrious types who weren't necessarily game breakers, and rode that formula to the top of the Supporters' Shield standing through, I want to say, mid-July. And then as the rest of the league got their feet under them in terms of chemistry and cohesion and attacking new, they sort of fell back to earth and ended up making a pretty quick exit from the playoffs. That is what I see in the 2016 Colorado Rapids.
Two very similar coaching styles between Pablo Mastroeni and Ben Olsen, or whatever you want to call. I'm not sure style is the right word. I had a sort of a eye roll moment the other day because Charlie Boehm sent me a link to. There's a video of Thierry Henry talking about Pep Guardiola's coaching technique, and literally right after that, just happened to read a quote from Pablo Mastroeni that said, "We all know that really in this league, tactics aren't even that. It's basically about the guys going out there and playing."
Oh God, I saw that.
Ben Olsen has said the exact same thing in the past.
Don't you guys just see Michael Azira as like the perfect DC United free agent signing in 2 years?
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I mean, there is, to an extent, I think there is something to that, because I talked to current and former players last year when DC was on top of the standings. I said, "What the hell is going on?" And to a man, they all said essentially the same thing. They care more, and that is, look, we've all seen, those Wednesday nights in May when you step onto the field and it's clear that 12 of the 22 guys don't want to be out there. Well, the 10 who do want to be out there, they're on DC United and they're on Colorado this year, and that gets you points.
Overall, I thought there was some good stuff.
But I mean,
I'm disappointed that wasn't an Always Sunny in Philadelphia clip. I need something on Bird Law right now.
And it takes over the rat's body.
Oh, God. It just never gets old. It takes over the Reds.
It likes cat pee.
Oh, my God.
Let's get this focused a little more now.
Nope.
Let's talk to the U.S. men's national soccer team.
Enjoy.
Oh, I have a soundboard for that, too, so it's fine.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
All right, so what do you think are the tactical implications of not having Jozy Altidore at the Copa America? How does the U.S. change their attack, if at all? I think some people are making the argument that we are reaching a point where it's going to be Altidore or Dempsey, and we weren't going to see both on the field. How do you think this changes what the U.S. was going to do at the Copa America?
I mean, I can't predict what Jurgen will do. So I have
Well,
no...
to be honest, I don't have a preferred system.
There you go. I have no way of knowing what he plans. I mean, we all celebrated 2 months ago when he played a 4-3-3 against Guatemala, and everybody was thrilled because 8 of the 11 guys were in somewhat natural positions, and the 2 who weren't were Dempsey and Bobby Wood. Bobby Wood, who's been one of, if not the best striker in the 2 Bundesliga this year, playing out on the wing, and Clint Dempsey, who is a second forward or maybe kind of an inverted winger, was playing as a center forward. And of course, Gyasi Zardes, who is, in my mind, a center forward or nothing, was playing on the wing and got an assist with his ass. So
he got a couple accidental assists in that game.
He had another one recently for the Galaxy too. He has racked up 3 amazing accidental assists recently.
Yeah, but he's had some nice plays too. That through ball he sent to Gio for the chip breakaway against Sporting Kansas City was gorgeous. He is a better player than folks give him credit for. But he still has these just like clown show moments that are hard to wipe from your memory. But if I was Jurgen, I will say this: I would have no problems playing Bobby Wood or Gyasi Zardes in the middle up top in a 4-3-3 or maybe even a 4-2-3-1. That would be, to me, that's a very simple switch to make. Even though neither plays the system quite the same way that Jozy does, but Wood is much better at holding the ball up than people realize. He is strong and he's got a low center of gravity, and you keep the ball on the ground, which, by the way, Klinsmann's teams don't, but if you keep the ball on the ground, you could definitely play him as a center forward.
Silence. Now,
good talk, guys. Good talk.
Yeah.
I had another point I've fixated on with the U.S. team, and I was curious why Klinsmann didn't make more of an effort to integrate some of the Olympic age guys, players he thought would probably be in Rio this summer, like Will Trapp and Emerson Heineman. Just speaking for yourself, would you have liked to see the U.S. get those guys into the team for this Copa America, or are you excited for another run of a Kyle Beckerman, Jermaine Jones central midfield?
Well, I'm not. I don't have a ton of Will Trapp stock. I think that he moves the ball brilliantly and he's a great passer, but a guy who gets just run over in high leverage situations that often, I don't see it with him as a starting number 6 for the U.S. anytime soon. So I had no problem with that. Perry Kitchen is what, 10 months older than him? I'm fine with Perry Kitchen being the youngish guy in that mix. And, Brooks is there, and Yedlin is there, and Morris is there, and those guys are 3 Olympic age guys. I think he called in the goalkeeper as well, Horvath. So there's a smattering of it, and I'm fine because Trapp has not been good this year. He was not good in Olympic qualifying, so I don't think you could put him there. I think the same for Matt Polster. I think the same. Emerson Heineman has potential, but he was far from the best midfielder on the team or on the field in Olympic qualifiers, and at the point of a gun, I wouldn't choose him over Jermaine Jones in a game I wanted to win. So I don't really have a problem with who Jurgen called. I have a problem with the guys themselves not going out there and winning a starting job and holding on to it. And I think that's a difference between a Kellen Acosta and some of the other guys who I just absolutely torched. So,
Jesus.
Well, yeah, it's easy to not have too many problems with the 40-man roster. I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunities to get up in arms once he cuts 17 players. One of those players who probably won't be cut though is Christian Pulisic, guy who's kind of rocketed into U.S. national team crush status very quickly. He's been playing on the wing for Dortmund, but those who have followed him at a younger age would say that he's more of a number 10 type. I'm wondering, if he does get minutes for the national team this summer, where he might be the best fit for this team.
Well, I think he's looked better on the wing for Dortmund than he has than he did as a number 10 for the U17s. So I see him right now, at least, as a winger. I think that he's not strong enough on the ball in order to play centrally. So I put him into the mix out there with hopefully Clint Dempsey and Fabian Johnson, and maybe Nagby gets a few minutes there, but I think Nagby is much more of a central midfielder. But I think at this point in his career, you got to put him in a position where he could use his technique and be a little bit evasive and not have to take the beating that like a Lee Win takes week in and week out.
All right, Matt, I know this is your day off, so we're going to let you go. But obviously appreciate you stopping by and hope to have you on sometime soon.
Guys, this was way less foul-mouthed and edgy than I expected. And I know you're out of practice, but you need to step up your game next time.
I thought...
I got nothing.
Pablo is scrambling to find profanity.
Thomas,
there's profanity on the
Pablo spent all his profanity on the Nevada Democratic Commission's building yesterday, I guess.
Can you believe those death threats that Pablo made towards the Democratic chair?
Now I'm getting out of here. Goodbye, guys.
See you later. All right, Matt Doyle. Been wanting to have him on for a while. That was fun. We have anything left? Is there anything left? Is that it?
I think we got a message in the Open Wide for Some Soccer inbox. Didn't we?
Yeah. Let's listen to that one. Here it is right here.
Fuck, marry, kill. Bruce Arena, Ben Olsen, Jurgen Klinsmann.
Gonna answer this right off the bat. You marry Bruce, stable guy, has been around forever, seems pretty low key. You fuck Ben Olsen and you kill Jurgen Klinsmann. I think we're all in agreement that you marry Bruce, right?
I'm just going to take the clip of you saying, you kill Jurgen Klinsmann, and play that out of context.
Oh, my God, no.
Yeah, Bruce seems like a stable marrying type, although, Ben Olsen, if you
but imagine living with Bruce Arena, though.
Yeah,
the amount of negativity and,
I think Ben's a good candidate for Mary, because if you want to talk about stability and loyalty, he's been with DC United for 19 years.
Yeah, but you also know he's never going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? That's a good and a bad thing.
Right. I mean, yeah. I guess
It's a low risk investment. You know, I mean, like
this is getting more into our own personal philosophies on what we're looking for in
I just think he's
marriage.
cuter. I don't know.
I mean, certainly Ben's younger.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's probably more attractive.
Probably has a better body than Jurgen, I guess. Thomas, care to chime in on this?
I'm gonna plead the fifth.
Can we play a quick round of 6 Degrees of Rochester Rhinos real quick?
Oh God. So this is a every episode thing now. Okay.
Don't worry, we don't do many episodes.
Seth, do you have anybody?
Yeah, I do. Claudio Reyna. Go.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, I don't know. I forgot. Roger, go ahead.
Oh, he's gonna use the Tim Howard one.
Why did you do it for him?
Well, no. Okay,
I just-
I'll do a different one.
Okay.
Let's see. Claudio Reyna played on the U.S. national team with Ben Olsen, who played with Pat Onstad, or who coached Pat Onstad on DC United, who was on the Rochester Rhinos.
Okay.
Wow. Let's do one or two more here.
Oh, no. I thought I had a clever one, but I didn't.
Let me challenge him more, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's a lot of time. No, that's easy.
I feel like we did that one before already.
Well, Cristiano
Beckham
Ronaldo.
was
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay. Cristiano.
No, because that's Beckham too.
Lionel Messi.
Messi's harder.
Okay. Lionel Messi played with David Villa.
He just shook his head like, you idiots.
Okay, so I'm at David Villa, who plays with Ethan White, who played with John McCarthy, who played for Rochester Rhinos.
Let's see.
You didn't even give him the
I
ding.
didn't get a ding.
You didn't give him the ding.
Thank you.
Pay me to do that. Let's do one more. Let's see.
Lothar Matthäus.
Lothar Matthäus played on the
On the
New York,
Red-
New Jersey
yeah.
Metro Stars.
Yeah. This is where Seth's early MLS lack of knowledge shows.
I'm trying to think of a player from then who would work.
You know, I was gonna say Jurgen Klinsmann. That was too easy, so I just my mind just went straight to Lothar Matthäus.
Well, is Klinsmann too easy? Klinsmann, if you exclude the head coach.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on. Jurgen Klinsmann, excluding his tenure as the U.S. national team head coach.
Yeah, there you go.
Jurgen Klinsmann guest played one friendly for
No,
DC
you can't
United.
use that bullshit. That's true. Wasn't it after
It is.
September 11th?
There was a series of 2 charity games after 9/11, and Jurgen Klinsmann started a match for DC United.
Jesus Christ.
Are you gonna let me use that? That's a pretty good pull.
Yeah. I think I might give up.
You didn't even let him complete it after making that jump. Well, you could do Ben Olsen, Coach Pat Onset.
There you go.
Rochester Rhinos.
All right, hold on. Kevin Bacon.
Okay.
And I think I could do this one. Go ahead.
Kevin Bacon in any films with Andrew Shue?
No, but I think he's been in one with Kevin Spacey, who was at DC United training
Is that
earlier
a
this
link I'm
year.
allowed to use?
That's a very loose connection.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Or you could get to Sylvester Stallone or Pelé or John
yeah.
Harkes through that Pelé movie.
Oh God. Okay. Well. All right. Let's work this. Kevin Bacon was in A Few Good Men with.
No, that's just the good hub for 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. I don't know if it's going to do any good in this.
This is gonna be tough. So let's get that to Jack Nicholson.
Oh, that's much closer to MLS. Jack Nicholson.
I mean,
this is
Jack
hard.
Nicholson went to a lot of Lakers games.
There we go. Yeah.
So now you're into basketball? I mean,
Well, at least we're in sports now.
yeah, that's true.
No.
Kobe Bryant, you go from him to Lionel Messi, like because they know
they've
each
met.
other. Yeah.
Because they did a photo op one time.
This one's a stretch. I could probably get there eventually.
Yeah, it's
It
over.
would take
It's
too
over.
long.
I think
Yeah.
I think the entire podcast is over too.
Good round.
You Yeah. Tune in next week for more 6 Degrees of Rochester Rhinos.
Yeah, thanks to Matt
Wait.
Doyle, and we'll talk to you guys next week.